experience and can be a little icebreaker. But yeah, to start off, thank you for joining today at the graduate school panel of Industry Insight series. My name is Maggie. I am one of your employers engagement student intern here at the Career Center, and I'll be hosting today's panel. Today's panel is also moderated by Myra, which is the Marketing and Employers Engagement Coordinator here at the Career Center. And a quick note before we begin, today's panel will be recorded just for any students who could not make it to the panel or for any future references. So yeah, a little introduction on Industry Insights. This is a series of virtual panels we do at the Career Center that focus on highlighting a specific field or industry and inviting sort of set personnel who are involved in that field to come talk more about their experience. And today's panel is a bit special following actually our graduate school event that just happened yesterday, where we both have current graduate students as well as admission officers here to share more about their experience with graduate school. And hopefully through this, we can help you guys to learn more about what is like in graduate school, what kind of application tips, anything, sort of all sorts of options. So yeah, we'll start off with a panelist introduction with our four panelists, which I'm super excited to talk to and for you guys to meet today, because we had conversations that I really enjoyed and just learned a lot from. And we'll go on to a formal Q&A session moderated by me, and then we'll open up the panel to any kind of questions that you guys might have. So yeah, to start off, there we go. We'll go from the order of left to right on our slide. And for our panelists, feel free to introduce yourself, sort of your background, as well as the current role you're pursuing and degree. Yeah, so let's start off with Shayna.
Hi everyone, my name is Shayna Aswani. I'm a third year law student at Pepperdine Law. I went to USC, what feels like a long time ago, but it really wasn't. I did my BA in law history and culture and my minor in business administration. I never actually knew that I wanted to go to grad school. It's something that just kind of played out for me after I graduated from USC. And since USC, I've had a lot of experience, both internship and paralegal experience. And then I started off at Pepperdine. I'm focused right now in entertainment. So this past summer, I was working at Fox, and I'm currently at the office now here at Peacock at NBC, hence the nice view. And I'm really interested in entertainment and specifically transactional law. So that's all non-litigation focused matters. I'm really passionate about my law school journey, and it's something that's, to be honest, changed my life. And I'm so excited to be here on the panel today. So thank you, Maggie, and looking forward to chatting with everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing. Now we'll move on to Wayne.
Hello. Uh, my name is Wayne. I actually did graduate a very long time ago from USC. It's been apparently a decade. I basically graduated with, I studied computer science and business, and I did one of those progressive degree programs at USC. After I went to work, I worked at NASA for about 3 years, and I worked at Amazon for about 4 years, mostly doing AI research. And then sort of like Jane, I decided that I sort of stumbled upon the PhD path or the grad school path. And so I went back to do my PhD. I'm a third year at CMU, studying CS and machine learning right now. And it's been really great. So yeah, I'm just here to share any information I can and help
Yeah,
out.
thank you for sharing. And we'll move on to Dr. Spites.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Amanda Spates. I'm a professor in the occupational therapy department. I did not attend USC. I am an East Coaster. I'm from Florida. So I relocated to take the job at USC Chan because they are the #2 program for occupational therapy in the nation. And it's kind of a dream job for me. After practicing occupational therapy for about 14 years in the school setting. And so now I'm a professor at USC, and it's really exciting. And I get to help other people realize their dreams as far as becoming an occupational therapist because I work in the admissions team. So I'm excited to share my journey of how I, started out actually thinking I was going to be a pharmacist for some reason. And then just looked into nutrition and other like health science fields and eventually landed on occupational therapy because it's so holistic and I just really love it and I'm really passionate about this profession. So hopefully I did see someone who wants to mix like kinesiology and nutrition. So maybe I can convince you to come over to the OT side.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and I was super excited when I saw that message. I was like, perfect. We have the perfect person for this. But yeah, thank you for sharing. And lastly, Echo.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name's Echo, and I'm currently in USC. I'm a first year PhD student majoring psychology. Like 4 years ago, I graduated from my undergraduate degree, and then I decided to go for a PhD program. So that's why I'm here. Super excited to meet all of you today, and thank you, Maggie, for the invite. I'm a social science major, so I think I can share some insights about, PhD program, application timelines, some tips, and also share some of my personal experience that I'm as a PhD student.
Yeah, thank you so much, Echo.
Mhm.
So we'll move on to the moderated question section. And for our panelists, feel free to jump in if you would like to speak on this question. But if you want to speak on another one, you can also just um, wait for that one. But yeah, so our first question is, what's one aspect of graduate school or your specific program that surprises you the most? And if there is anyone who'd like to speak for this.
I can start us off. So I would say, speaking for law school, for me personally, I was very shocked by the adjustment in my academic coursework. I think, USC definitely prepared me for graduate school, but compared to the level of coursework that I had started off with in my first year of law school, it was definitely a really big adjustment. So it was very tough for me in the beginning to balance, my academic coursework as well as other mandated classes that I had to take, as well as clubs and different school organizations that I was a part of. So I would say that that was the most surprising thing. But that was also something that I was told the most prior to my start of law school. So I would say number one is just that, big academic shift rather than, spending a few hours on homework every day. I was spending pretty much my whole day on my readings. And it definitely took a while to adjust to that and recalibrate. So I would say that was kind of the biggest thing. And then the second thing I would say is the kind of more interactive nature of graduate school that I think is a little bit different from the undergraduate experience. I found that, USC was really, really great in a lot of my smaller classes with, engaging with students individually, but I wasn't ready for the level of interactiveness that I think a lot of graduate schools feature. So, being cold called in law school is really common. Most law schools kind of follow that model. And that was something that was just very different for me. And I had the opportunity to learn from my peers in the classroom in the way that undergraduate was kind of focused on learning directly from my professor. But I found that I learned as much from my peers as I did from my professor kind of in the classroom environment. So I would say those are the two biggest things that surprised me the most when I first started.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Shayna. I know that you also had to balance so many outside experience, both with internships and everything. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That super impressive. I personally don't know too much about law school, so learning about like the cold call, I'm getting a little scared. I know I'm not even a part of the program. But yeah, thank you. Is there any other panelists who would like to speak on the subject?
Yeah, I feel like I can totally echo with Shanna's point about like having coursework, PhD level coursework is at another level, which is like can be time consuming and can be challenged with can involve a lot of reading and writing. And another aspect that kind of surprised me is now we have more flexibility and in terms of is like how we can plan our day. And we also have our flexibility of choosing which research direction that we want to dive deep in, which I don't think I'm like, as an undergraduate, when I was an undergraduate, I wasn't thinking too much. So when I was, doing undergraduate course, usually my professor gave me assignments and they gave me a deadline. So usually my work is to, learn the stuff during class and try to finish my assignments. And however, during graduate school, I don't have a clear goal and I need to find my research interest, research passion through like a lot of reading, through like chatting with other professionals. So I feel like this flexibility and this also like it gives me more flexibility to explore different research area. It is fun process, but it also can be intimidating because like now no one is giving me, oh, Echo, what you should do next. Now I'm the person to lead an independent research and I need to come up with my own direction. So yeah, that's the fun part and also the challenging part for graduate school to me.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Echo. Yeah, I can definitely feel that the having that flexibility and agency, it feels like a really big responsibility to take on, but I think that is super cool. I feel like everyone that does research is really, really cool with just everything they have to balance. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Is there any other panelists who would like to talk on this question?
Yeah, I'll jump in if you don't mind. I would say for me, because like my journey was a little bit more broken up. So I did my bachelor's and then master's, and I worked as an occupational therapy with my master's degree for about 14 years. And then I went back for my doctorate. And so to kind of say, similar to what Echo was saying about choosing your own direction, like I brought a lot of what I was already doing as a clinician into my grad school work, and it helped me like find the evidence base that I really needed to back up what I was doing as a practitioner and to also innovate because the time that I went to graduate school was actually during the pandemic. So I was like right smack in the middle of like telehealth and getting online and like figuring out how we were going to help people through this crisis as therapists. So I would say like thinking when you go to grad school, think about your degree as like a ticket to entry into the workforce. Um, and even though it might be in a specific field, you want to just like use that knowledge base and your lived experience to launch yourself into like whatever purpose that is that you want to accomplish, like as a person. You don't feel boxed in by that degree and or boxed in by what you see other people doing with that degree because you could do so much. Probably with any graduate school degree, really. You can become a consultant, you could own your own business, especially when you're thinking about the cost of education at USC. You're investing a lot of money and you really want a great return on that investment. So just really think about that graduate school. And I would say that's what surprised me is that the graduate school experience is not just about like learning technical skills, but about networking and bridging that gap between like what's technical and what's soft and how you're going to really navigate the workforce. Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Wayne, do you want to
Yeah,
talk
I
on
think I have two thoughts. The first is that I think graduate school is very different between people. and between programs, but at the same time also very similar. I think I share a lot of like sentiments with what the three other panelists have said about how when you do research, when you're in grad school, you sort of have to drive your own direction a lot, unlike in undergrad. But at the same time, there's a lot of differences. For example, in my program, coursework is actually not the focus. Like we try to focus very, very little on coursework. So it's actually, even though the classes are very difficult, we actually spend not a lot of time on it. So I think that's something that surprised me, like going into it, because you hear all these things about grad school. And really, what I'm trying to say here is that it's just different for every single person, every single program, um, except basically for the fact that you have to be the driver of your own research. I think the second thing that surprised me, echoing what Amanda said, is that there's just a lot of networking that goes on in grad school. Once I went to my program, I met people and started to understand things that I just did not know were even things in undergrad. It wasn't until I started talking with these people that I realized, oh, there's all these different pathways where you can use grad school sort of as a spring. And I think that's an understated part of grad school that you just don't realize until you get there.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. We'll move on to the next question, which is, what has been some of the biggest challenges you have faced in graduate school and how did you overcome them? So, same format, if any panelist wants to jump in and share more about this.
Maybe I'll go first since I went last time. I think one of the biggest challenges I faced is grad school is quite long. I think depending on what grad school program you're in, the minimum will probably be 4 years, right? Most likely it'll be 5, 6, maybe longer. And unlike undergrad, where you're trying to build this breadth of experience, for grad school, you're really trying to build this narrow, very deep level of expertise in one specific thing. But because grad school is so long, as Amanda kind of alluded to, things change and sudden things happen, like the pandemic happened after you joined grad school, and suddenly this expertise that you have has to really adapt to how the world shifts. And I think that's sort of the biggest challenge. Like, so for example, I work in AI, and when I joined ChatGPT, it kind of just became a thing now, right? And now, as you all know, it's sort of this huge phenomenon, like, and the whole field has sort of shifted as a result of that. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. It's how to overcome these changes that are just out of your control. And you're in the program, you're going to be there for a while. How do you take your expertise and sort of adapt it to how the world is changing?
Thank you so much for sharing that, Leanne. Yeah, I think even just for me as an undergraduate, sometimes I wonder by the point when I graduate, what will my degree look like? What kind of fields would I would be able to go in? So I think that's really insightful that you mentioned that, and I think it will be great for students in all sorts of points to start thinking more and just being more aware of sort of the changes that is happening. Yeah, is there any other panelists?
Yeah, I can share some of my thoughts. Really resonate and echo with what Wayne just said. Graduate school is so long and so many things can happen. And I'm also in the process of like trying to figure out what my future plan is. And sometimes my plan for the future can change. When I was in graduate school, I only have one thought is to become a PhD student and then become a professor. And now in the graduate school, I feel like, oh, PhD degree can leverage me to do so many things. I have learned all the technical skills where I can work on the data set, as well as I've learned a lot of research, tailoring specific to my social science and psychology realm that I can stick to my path to still be in academia and go for a professor route. And also like we have so many consulting panels, and also like I've made some connections with like professionals, seeing how they pivot from research to consulting, which is another field. So I guess one of the biggest challenges for me is try to, seeing all those possible paths and seeing the pros and cons on each side, trying to narrow it down and decide which path that I should go for. So currently I'm still in the process of, networking and chatting with other professionals who have already finished their PhD degree, and kind of they are very helpful in sharing their insights and seeing how like they reach their own success in different fields within their PhD degree is pretty inspiring. And yeah, so I'm in the process of trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Echo. That's super interesting. I didn't know about the research to consulting path as well, and I think I'm starting to learn about just how sort of limitless the opportunities you have with a graduate degree. And yeah, best of luck on your career explore journey as well, and I think it'll be great. Is there any other panelist like to?
I can kind of jump in here. I think Echo made a great point. For me, I always thought the biggest challenge would be getting into grad school. But now since I've started grad school, I've realized that there are so many other challenges that start once you start grad school. Between managing conflicting priorities, you have, of course, your academic coursework, you're on, school clubs, different organizations, as well as balancing recruitment as well and networking. That can be really challenging. But also, I've realized a lot of the challenge in grad school is actually figuring out what you want to do with your degree. So I think Echo made a great point with that. I think that, of course, your academic coursework is going to expose you to so many different areas of, for me, the law. But it's been really tough figuring out exactly what I want to do and which area of the law I want to start off in. And I always thought that just getting into, law school would just, all my problems would go away. But definitely it unfolds a lot of different other challenges, but it's all the process of, forming you as an attorney or, whatever your career path is. So I think, yeah, I think I always thought that all my problems would go away if I just got into grad school, but that's kind of when they began.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Also, just thank you again for all our panelists to take the time to talk for our students today. I just know how busy it must have been with all the coursework. So for you guys to take that time and share more about your experience, I genuinely really appreciate it. Yeah, and for
I just want to hop in and kind of stay on brand as far as OT goes and say one of the biggest challenges I notice, not just with myself, but with a lot of students that I advise, is self-care. It's one of those things that we know it's so important, but it's like the first thing that starts to slip with the academics because it's like so rigorous, like you're so focused on what you need to do, you like forget to take care of yourself. You start eating terribly, you're like not exercising, you're not sleeping. And so as an occupational therapist who's an advisor for OT students, I'm always preaching to them how like self-care is foundational, and like if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to make it through grad school. So I'll say that.
I like how all of our heads are just nodding up and down.
Yeah, everybody's like, yeah, that's it. It's just like, it's
I
so
will just
important.
add though that I think a big reason for that loss is because grad school is just a lot more like you're doing something you like a lot more. So it's much easier to just be like, oh, let me just spend an extra 2 hours doing this rather than, going to exercise or eating healthier.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know in my research lab, whenever I talk to the current PhD students, they're like, yeah, one of the biggest things is actually learning to plan exercise into your day to make sure you're moving so you don't sit for that long and just being healthy is a really big part. So thank you for sharing that. We'll move on to our next question, which is what experience helped you the most in applying to or sort of adjusting and succeeding in graduate school? And maybe for Dr. Spades, if you want to talk more about what kinds of experience and qualities that make an applicant stand out to you, I think that would be really valuable as well. So, yeah, feel free to jump in, anyone.
Yeah, well, I think when I'm reading applications, I'm trying to hear your story, really. I want to hear who you are, and what you can bring to the profession, because OT is just so diverse, right? And especially healthcare, like we need all different types because we have all different types of people that we serve in the community, and we really need that representation. So I just want to see who you are and see how passionate you are about joining this profession. We've moved to holistic admissions, so there's no entrance, there's no exam, there's no GRE. And we do look at GPA, but that's only 1/3 of what we look at. We really look at personal statement. We look at your letters of recommendation. We look at your resume. And we really just like to talk to students who are really engaged in that process of being recruited, of being enrolled in the program, and just talking to us and like coming to meet us and coming to visit and have different experiences with us and like those different touch points throughout the kind of recruitment and application process. That's what we're really looking for. Somebody who's dedicated and cares about what they're going to be doing. I know that it's really stressful though for students because they're always thinking about grades and the tests and things like that. But yeah, really just hone in on like how you're going to leverage your lived experience, to have a purposeful life, really. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of students can resonate. I know it's midterm season for me, I'm sure for a lot of students here as well. So yeah, thank you. Is there any other panelists who would like to talk?
Yeah, I can go next. For me, when applying to graduate school, I think that I had a lot of misconceptions. For example, when once you apply and you get waitlisted to a school, a lot of people just kind of pull back the reins and just give up. But for me, for a couple of schools, I actually was waitlisted. And in the application process, I decided to keep following up, to visit the school, to really still express my interest. And that's something that I really harp on when I talk to anybody who's thinking about graduate school. I was actually waitlisted to Pepperdine, and I was on the wait list for months and months, and I was very disheartened. And I, kept expressing my interest in the program, and I really didn't give up. I submitted a bunch of letters of continued interest expressing that, this is something that I'm really passionate about. And this is how my resume has changed and developed, after I submitted my application. And these are the actionable steps I'm taking towards aligning myself towards your program. And I think that that really kind of, did something for me, because I think, I can't speak for admissions, but I would imagine that something like that is definitely valued, when compared to, you have so many people on these wait lists. And if you're definitely, still showing up and showing your face and writing emails and calling, I really would like to think that that made a difference for me.
Yeah, for sharing that. Oh, Wayne, would you like to jump in?
Uh, yeah, I sort of was just thinking about what Amanda said. So I took a bit of an unusual um, approach to applying to grad school. I basically only applied to CMU. I applied to one professor. Um, and I basically was just like, I really want to work with you specifically. And I think why I bring that up is because Amanda mentioned how you really have to show that you're dedicated to what you want to work on. They want to see that you're passionate about it. I don't know if you should do what I did. I would advise you apply to more than one school. But I think the point is that more important than anything, at least for PhD programs, is you really have to show that you really want to be there, and that yeah, this is what you really want to do. And I think that's like, grades, like, yeah, you have to have good grades, you have to do all that stuff, but that's really what's going to put you apart, set you apart from everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm also happy to share some of my insights here. Echo to all our panelists. I feel like having a good story with like supportive experience of what your prior work brings your like kind of showcase your passion is pretty important. So like when writing a personal statement, think of a like coherent story about how your prior experience brought you here and what is your future plan. So I think like having a really strong story can be really helpful. And thinking back to when when I'm like thinking about applying to graduate school, I feel like knowing about the timeline is also important because like applying to graduate school can also be a marathon. I personally applied to quite a few schools. I think I applied to 6 schools, and each school have different kind of their requirements, and it is time consuming to put all those application materials all together, including resume, including like and I also have to balance all my coursework at that time. And one thing that I also did when I was applying is like I cold email to the professors that I'm interested in and share my experience and ask if they want to chat with me or if they are taking students. Because, depending on the budgeting or depending on the application cycle, not all school professors will be taking students. Getting to connect with them before the application and then decide whether we want to apply to that school specifically or we want to apply to a certain professor specifically is quite important because we just want to get to know more about the lab and also if the professor is currently taking students. So yeah, those are some of my the strategies or some of my tips that I used when applying. And I just want to echo with like all our panelists about like during graduate school, I feel like self-care is really important. And 5 years is a pretty long time and you're running a marathon with it. So I feel like, having a good work-life balance, even though everyone love research so much, it is very important to prioritize your mental health and your well-being first over all the other things, including teaching, including research, and including like networking and trying to find next steps. Yeah, so those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Echo. I feel like that's such valuable advice that I'm sure students here are will be just benefiting a lot from. So thank you for sharing. And the last question I have is that if you were able to go back and give your younger self one piece of advice before pursuing grad school, what would it be? And maybe for Dr. Spades, if there is a step you recommend students kind of start doing right now if they are looking into graduate school, feel free to share that as well.
Yeah, I think like today I had a guest lecturer come into class and he's an OT entrepreneur. And something he told the students is that he wished he would have started his business sooner. Like that he could even start, and you could even start as a student, like start forming those ideas early, because sometimes you're going to have more resources at the university. Like once you graduate and leave the university, you go out into the field and it's feels sometimes like you're totally by yourself. You don't have Korshak Center, you don't have the Career Center, you don't have all of these resources. So really dive in and like try to use all the resources you can while you're at university. Because there's like 3D printing. There's so many great things at USC that you could utilize while you're there, and make connections with those professors that could really help you in your career afterwards. So I would just say like really like diving in and just taking advantage of everything that you have access to when you're at school is really important. Um, yeah, that's basically it. Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there any other panelist who would like to speak on this matter?
Sure, I can go next. But I wish that I really could have told myself that the biggest enemy that you're going to face is going to be yourself. I think I started law school and I had all of this talk in my head of, oh no, I'm not the type of person that would do that. Oh no, I'm not the type of person that would just cold reach out to someone or, pursue this research project at school with a professor that I'm really interested in. And I found that during my first year, I really limited myself because of all of that type of talk. So I would say, you're your worst enemy, and the worst thing that's going to happen is it's not going to work out, and you'll try again. And I wish that I would have just put myself more out there during my first year. I always told myself, oh, I could never get a summer associate position at a big media company. That's never going to be me. And that's the reason why I didn't, apply to those opportunities during my first year. And now in my second year and my third year, I've really pushed myself to, constantly tell myself, I am. And that's led to a lot of great opportunities. So it's a very simple thing, but I think quite effective.
I think if I could go back, I would just want to better understand what grad school is. I think there's a lot of misconceptions of what a grad school is. I think if you read online, uh, there's just a lot of talk, for example, about how like, oh, you should only go to grad school if you want to stay in academia forever, or things like that. Oh, grad school is like you're gonna be poor, yada yada. I think it's just not true in the modern age anymore. I thought this was true because that's what everybody on the internet said, and that's a big reason why I didn't even consider it in undergrad. But I think after coming to grad school, I realized that it's just completely different than what people have said in the past. So I would suggest, if I could give myself a piece of advice, I would tell myself what I know about grad school nowadays.
Yeah, and echo to what Wayne just said. Like when I was applying for graduate school, the only thing that I kind of know is like, oh, I'm gonna do research as a PhD student, and I like go to a PhD program directly from my undergraduate. Even though I have a few like research experience in my lab, I don't kind of know the holistic view of PhD student. And now I'm in the PhD program. I know there are so many things that we need to balance. And so another route that I see a lot of people are taking is they start doing a post-bac for like 1 to 2 years. For example, the lab manager in our lab, she's in this post-bac program where she kind of helps manage the lab as well as see if she's really interested in doing the research in like, for me, it's psychology. So I kind of like not regret it, but sometimes I think, oh, if I wish I could know what graduate school is better so that I can make better decisions or make better like, targeted school search when I'm applying. And also I think even though I didn't personally do it, I think I see a lot of other students who go for a post-bac program after graduate from undergraduate. So that experience would also give you a very holistic sense of what is your day-to-day work in working in a lab and what PhD students looks like.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think I'm hearing a lot about just having more of that information would be so helpful. I think for people deciding to pursue on this journey, especially just knowing how big of a commitment grad school is as well as its time. So just again, I really appreciate you guys being here and sharing that with us. I think we're all really benefiting a lot. And yeah, thank you. That concludes my sort of questions I have planned. And now we're opening up this panel to any questions that students might have. So priority would be given to students who have their camera on or their virtual hand. But if you don't feel comfortable speaking on the panel, you can also message it in the chat or to me, and I will ask the question for you. We'll wait for a little bit for any questions. Yes. Jayla, please go ahead.
Is my camera on? It's not been working this entire time.
Oh,
Okay.
no, let me see it.
No, I don't think it's on. It's okay. My name is Jalila. As I stated earlier, I'm currently a senior. I study cinema and media studies, and I'm interested in like kinesiology, nutrition science, nutrition studies, exercise science, like that type of area. But I was just really wondering, like, I don't know if you all have well, I think you all like experience like you all matriculated into grad school based on your undergrad degree. But do you all know of any people that like transition into grad school with a completely set of like different set of knowledge? And then how was that experience like? Like, what is it like transferring into like grad school when you don't have like an undergrad experience of like what that field is?
I can speak to that a little bit as an admissions officer because sometimes when I read applications, I'm seeing that students are coming in like at a second career or, like you said, coming from a totally different field. Recently, there was someone admitted to our doctorate program that came from journalism. And so sometimes I feel like those previous careers or that previous experience and knowledge can help like springboard you in the OT field because if you want to be a business owner, if you want to be in academia, if you want to do consulting, you need a lot of other skills besides just the technical skills of being an OT. Like you need to know how to communicate with people. Um, and then a lot of times, like now, even though I practice OT still, I'm using it in a way that I'm helping people attain the degree that I have. So it's not that I'm explicitly practicing OT right now. And so that's what I mean about like realizing that your degree doesn't box you in. Um, and so the same thing with your undergraduate degree, like it doesn't box you into having to go like a specific path. You can combine different things because like my bachelor's is in food science and human nutrition, my master's is in occupational therapy, and then my doctorate is in health science. So I have 3 different degrees. Um, so I wouldn't say that you should box yourself in. You could definitely leverage whatever knowledge you have in the field that you go into.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to add to that, I think I agree. I've seen lots of people come in with different degrees, even to CS. I think going back to the story, I think that's what's important. Like if you're going from cinema and media to exercise science, I think you probably do have a good story on why you want to do that. And I think writing that out and expressing that clearly is probably what will help you the most.
Thank you so much.
For the questions, I'm just getting some questions from messaging, so I'll just read them out. But I have a question on, did you always wanted to go to grad school? How did you come to the decision of pursuing graduate school? And what are some of the differences between law school, between a PhD program, as well as in general industry work? If there is any panelist who would like to.
Yeah, I guess I can chime in here. For me, I spoke about it a little bit, but during undergraduate, I really didn't have a set path. Yes, I did major in law, history, and culture, but I didn't really know that I wanted to go to law school, and that wasn't something that I had planned, and it's something that just kind of played out. In terms of, my degree and how it's applicable, I think that I can just speak for law school. I think law school the reason I attended is just because of like the wealth of opportunities that I think I knew that would be available to me. I think right now in our day and age, the job market is really tough and it's really competitive, and you as an applicant just need to try your best to differentiate yourself. And I knew with having my JD, whether I decided to practice law or not, I knew that that would just be a really, really great tool in my toolkit. In terms of like different lateral opportunities, you know, right now I'm working in-house at a big company as in a legal function as a lawyer, or I shouldn't say lawyer yet, but as a law student. But you know, of course, you can work at a firm as well. But there's so many different opportunities. You can work as a business executive. You can move towards consulting. You can go into banking. There's so many different things that I've seen people with JDs do. So I think, you know, picking a program like mine, you don't have to be confined to just wanting to be a lawyer. There's so many different alternate career routes. So I think that the world is your oyster with a JD.
Yeah, you're sharing. Please go ahead.
I'm gonna sort of answer what Ariel asked in the chat also, which is like why pursue a PhD after working. Like, did I sort of answering like why did I know I wanted to do a PhD? I kind of already said I didn't know, and the reason I came back is because as everyone was kind of echoing about grad school, there's a lot of you have to sort of drive your own research in a lot of ways, but with that comes a lot of freedom, right? It's challenging, but it means that I get to do basically whatever I want. And I think when once you go to work, you will soon realize that that's not really true at work, right? There's a lot of external factors that sort of more motivate what you have to do. And yeah, so basically, I just wanted the freedom to do the research that I wanted to do. So, for example, I actually work on AI for game development and stuff, which is not something you would ever do in industry, right? So I think that, yeah, freedom is basically a very underrated part of going back to grad school.
Thank you for sharing that. I will. Oh,
And
I
there
see
were
that.
definitely some questions in the chat that I was trying to answer. For me, going back was definitely about advancing my career and being able to teach in a university setting, because I'd done continuing education courses and done like guest lectures and things like that before, but you can't be fully employed as a faculty member without a doctorate most of the time. In a graduate program. So normally like you need one level above what it is you're teaching. So if you're teaching in bachelor's, you need a master's. If you're teaching in a master's program, you're going to need a doctorate. If you're teaching in like an entry-level doctorate program, you're going to need a PhD in order to teach those people who are considered like less educated, I guess, than you are. And then looking at as far as an admissions officer and looking at personal statements, I'm saying that critical thinking, self-reflection, and alignment with the goals and the values of the profession, and also the institution, you know, like just expressing your interest and saying how you're in alignment with maybe what their strategic plan is, any of their mission, their vision, and their goals as an institution. If you can align yourself with that, that can be really helpful in your application.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm getting another question about, do you guys have any advice on how to financially support yourself during the pursuit of a graduate degree? If there is anyone who would like to speak on this subject.
Well, I'll say as a PhD student, it's somewhat simple because they pay you. So you're not paid a lot, but usually wherever you are, it's enough to sustain yourself for the 5 years. My other suggestion would be actually not even for financial reasons, but it's one of the reasons, is to actually go work for a year or two before you go back to graduate school. You get that financial safety net that is just so nice to have. but also it will help you understand if you want to go back to grad school. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with Wayne. Um, and also like for some different reasons, because I feel like between undergrad and grad school, if you could get some of that work experience, it just gives you more skin in the game when you're going into your graduate degree. Like you have a better idea of what you want to do. Sometimes if you've worked in the field, and that's definitely what happened for me, like working as an OT, then I was able to be like really focused when I went into my doctoral studies as far as like what I wanted to study specifically in OT and how I wanted to advance professionally in that way. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. I just want to say, like, echoing all the thoughts here, because I didn't get a chance to like work in between my PhD and my undergraduate degree, I chose internship, which I think it not only provides some kind of financial support, and also it kind of opens another door of letting me to see what industry looks like, so that now I know what academia looks like, what industry looks like. I can make better choices in the future when I graduate. So, and internship, of course, they pay you, so that also helped out. And currently, as a PhD student, the stipend that I'm currently getting is sufficient to support my life. I won't say it is a lot, and the stipend is definitely, I think, not comparable to some like industry roles, but I would say it's definitely enough to support yourself.
Thank you for sharing that, Echo. Getting another
I can
question.
say one last thing. In my department, we actually hire students to do ambassador roles because that's really helpful as far as like when we're thinking about like this graduate school landscape. And when you're researching where you want to go, you usually want to hear from somebody who's actually experiencing it. So I would say to look into the school or department that you're in and see if they have any roles that you could fill. That could be one way that you could support yourself in graduate school.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I'm getting another question in the chat about whether anyone here is international or maybe know an international student in the graduate degree and how their experience sort of different in the working field in comparison. Is there any panelists here who wants to speak on that?
I'm not international, but I do know some students. Usually their financial aid is a little bit different. And then they have to get sponsored in order to work afterwards. So I don't know if Echo, you wanted to say a little bit more about that, because I see you nodding your head. Go ahead.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Amanda. So yeah, I'm an international student, and I did my undergraduate degree in the United States. I finished at Penn, so it doesn't feel like a huge switch to me because I already adapted to like the lecture, the culture, and everything. But echo to what Amanda just mentioned about visaship. International students do get a visaship during like PhD program called like F1 student visa, and after graduation, we will be able to sponsor by school for up to 1 or 3 years under OPT or CPT program, where this kind of sponsorship enables you to like work in the United States. And after that, it will be H1B visa or EB1 visa, depending like which route you are pursuing.
Thank you for sharing. All right. Is there any last minute questions from the audience before we sort of wrap up the panel? All right, I think that concludes it. So thank you so much again. Thank you to our panelists and thank you for everyone who come in today and listen to our grad school industry insights panels. We have sort of this series of panels throughout the academic year, and we already had a couple for this semester, but I believe for next week we have one on entertainment. So just keep an eye out if